And I came here in 1986 to run it for myself, and I signed the papers, and I was owner of the Red Barn Incorporated. People come in here for the experience, more so than I think anything else. And they love the fact that somebody's actually taking the time to listen. Maybe you learn in proportion to how much you listen and care. If you can find that balance between doing what you love that isn't really work, that might pay the bills, and can resonate with people and actually to some extent help people. Without my customers, I would be doing what I don't love, guaranteed.
Good morning. Welcome again to what's happening in Augusta. Unfortunately, Senator Searway had a prior engagement, so he couldn't be here this morning to be with us, but it's one of those things where things are really starting to heat up quite a bit in Augusta, obviously. We have our special adjournment, our technical adjournment date is June 21st, so we do not have a whole lot of time to do a few things, although I don't expect we will probably be in adjournment at that point in time, unfortunately, because we've got a ton of bills coming in, and plus we have to get the budget done. We're working on it right now, and we've got to have something voted in within the next 12 to 13 days because we need to get it put together, get the package out, get it to the governor back, and if we have to make changes or override vetoes or whatever, then that's the way it is. Anyway, but things are heating up. I noticed like the House calendar last week, we get a calendar every morning that has everything that we're going to do, has gone from probably somewhere in the vicinity of 50 pages to 70 pages. Starting next Monday, we go 5 days per week. A good portion of that will be double sessions and maybe sometime triple sessions, and that'll go till like that until June 21st. Lots of bills, and in some instances, unfortunately, lots of money. For example, last Thursday, we had a bunch of bills that were passed, and I will say I did not vote for any of them, that were into the related of $1.3 billion worth of funds. They will not get through the Senate, or if they do, the governor will veto them, and there's not enough votes to override the veto. So not worried about that spending, but that just gives you kind of an example of what's actually happening now. And of course, the budget is on the top of the agenda. I personally do not want to see the state shut down, but I also do not want to see us dramatically hurt our state by stupid decisions that could affect us for years. There was one bill, and I know I got a couple of emails on, that was called a woman's right bill that I actually voted against. And it had nothing to do with that. I voted that way because of the concerns of the ladies that are closest to me. It was very simple. I asked them. The bill would turn over laws and practices that benefit women. For example, it would affect special accommodations for pregnant women in a workplace, Social Security benefits for stay-at-home moms based upon their spouse's income, and the exemption of women from military draft and front-end combat. Laws that support women in areas of alimony, child support, and requirements of husbands to pay for dependent wives' medical bills. It would have affected that also. It would also have impacted privacy and safety of women and girls by removing the gender designations for bathrooms, jails, and hospitals. And those are just a few of the things that I had been made aware of. So that's why, for anybody that's wondering, I didn't vote against women's rights. I voted actually to maintain them. All right, now the other thing we can talk about right now, which is top subject, is our 3%, that 3% tax that was passed through referendum. I believe in our district, locally, it did not pass, but it was primarily coming out of southern Maine where the big push came in to pass it. All right, right now, we must do better for our students instead of just throwing money at the challenges we face in education. We must do better for Maine taxpayers than just continue education status quo at a higher cost than before. We must fix the destructive 3% surtax that is damaging Maine's economy. Now I'm going to give you a few examples of what I'm talking about. First of all, the 3% tax only impacts about 16,000 taxpayers. 11,000 of those 16,000 taxpayers are what is known as pass-through businesses. These 16,000 taxpayers, including the 11,000 small businesses, currently pay more than 60% of the income tax in Maine. This is a notion that higher earners aren't paying their fair share is ridiculous. It's just that simple. Question 2 would have a detrimental effect on Maine's business community and private sector employment. The majority of Maine's businesses, including many family-owned farms, are not subject to corporate income tax. Rather, profits flow through the owners and are taxed as ordinary income under the individual income tax situation. These businesses, often referred to as pass-through entities, include sole proprietorships, partnerships, and S corporations. They constitute a growing percentage of total business sector. 15 pass-through entries in Maine accounted for nearly 61.7% of the private sector employment in 2012. And as a result, tax increases on higher earners could have a profound impact on small businesses, employees, and our economy as a whole. Maine's high tax burden already makes it difficult to attract doctors, scientists, engineers, and other professionals. The 3% tax hike only exacerbates this trend to the deterrent of our economy. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 24 occupations in Maine earn an average of more than $100,000 a year. A worker in one of those professions whose salary is combined with, let's say, investment income and a spouse's wages could easily exceed the $200,000 in annual household income. Of these 24 occupations, the Maine Department of Labor predicts that 9, or 37.5%, will experience rapid employment growth, partly driven by growing demand. 10 faced with a 10.15% top income tax rate, however, some professionals may be deterred from working in Maine. It's just that simple. And now comes the real test to us, the budget. That's going to be a dandy. We have a budget. We have to have a budget constructed by June 13th in order to be able to get one approved by June 21st, which is our adjournment date. We have to get one done by July 1st, or the state will actually shut down at that point. We have been having many meetings and are working together to get it done. There's a lot of stuff flying out in the press. Some of it could be, I guess, considered verbal slips by some of the leaders, that are some of the things that they may have said that look like it's going in, but was just kind of an idea type of thing or something. And of course, some of it is fake news. We have our minds focused on doing what is best for our state. We want to get education, and we can do it. We want to get education to 55% of the funding. And we want all of our businesses here and attract more for strong, good-paying jobs. Now, one of the things I noticed was in the paper this morning, yesterday, we rejected in the House the House rejected a pregnancy drug bill. And basically all it was a bill that takes expectant mothers that are hooked on drugs, that the doctors would take it and report it. Now, it doesn't add, it's not a report to have them arrested or anything else. Basically, all they wanted to do was start this drug treatment before the babies are born, because right now we have a large percentage of babies, drug babies, that are born addicted. And unfortunately, we heard people get up, including a doctor, get up and, oh, well, we take care of that, and, we can take care of that baby after it's born, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, these are the same people that several years ago I had put a bill in to mandate that all doctors use a prescription monitoring program so that we could stop this doctor shopping for opiates. And I heard the same exact thing. Doctors, we all have, and not all doctors, and I shouldn't say that, but there's just certain amounts that we have great judgment, and we know when somebody's on the drugs and stuff like that. And I sit and talk to friends of mine that are doctors and stuff, and they sit there and tell me, John, we see people come in all the time that try to get opiates. I look at the PMP system and say, wait a minute, you just got something down the street or something. So anyway, but they were fine, and the same thing with this situation. It's a sad situation when you've got to say, these poor women that are delivering these babies, I understand they have a problem, but they can be treated, get off the drugs, and can eliminate a lot of situations. And again, it's not going to affect them. We're not getting reported to the police, etc. But they voted it down anyway. So anyway, that was that situation. There are some things happening within the education level that we probably need to talk about just a little bit. One of the things that I've noticed, like in 2011, 2012, there was about, it looks like maybe 185,000 students that we had in the schools in Maine. That today is now down by 2017-18. Looks like it's going to be down into about the 65,000 range. Now, our whole system, our whole operating overhead and infrastructure of our public schools is based upon a student enrollment closer to 250,000 students. And with today's enrollment being down to 180,000 students and dropping, we need to adopt our school system in such a way that the resources are directed to where they are most effective, which is inside the classrooms. We want to get, and I think we can do it. We just had a get-together budget meeting last night, and I believe that we can get to our 55% funding. But right now, only 59% of every dollar we spend makes its way to classroom instruction. Compounded by declining enrollments, it's clearly threatening the ability of school districts to offer adequate programs for their students. I mean, there are some key initiatives. Whether we'll get there or not, who knows, but we're going to give it a try. And one would be a statewide teacher's contract, which would empower the state to negotiate a statewide teacher's contract. We have a lot of teachers that are for that. I'm sure some are against it, but it is what it is. More funds for classroom instruction. Require school districts to spend 70% of public education funds on classrooms and instruction-related costs, up from our state average right now of 59%. That would be a big plus. Regional education service centers, which would be kind of establish a framework for regional education service centers which can perform back office functions and offer regional services such as special ed and leadership academies. Incentives for voluntarily regionalization. Fund $5 million per year in grants for voluntary regionalization initiatives. Funds for regional school facilities. Authorize a $20 million bond fund to establish of Maine innovative regional school facilities finance programs and double the debt services limit for innovative regional school construction. Phase out the current charter school cap. Pilot education cost savings accounts. Establish a pilot program for education savings accounts to allow parents to determine the best educational environment for their students' needs. Increase state funding for special education, including funds targeted to serve children with autism. Expand career and technical education. Expand CTE to the middle school students and authorize a $10 million bond to fund CTE equipment and attract private match. It's something that we've lost over the years, and I think it's desperately needed. Increase funding to early college programs. Increase reimbursement rates for high school students enrolled in college courses, including 100% reimbursement of courses at the main community colleges. I know at KVCC, where I am a trustee, we're working on that all the time. We want to get together, and I would love at some point in time to see where, and it can be done, and it's done in other areas of the country, where a student could actually graduate from high school with their high school diploma and an associate's degree. If we look at the amount of money, we talk about the student loan debts and what's going on with what everybody owes and stuff like that. And if they could come out of there with that associate's degree, how much money would they save where they only have to go to 2 years of college to get their bachelor's instead of 4 years of college? I think it would be tremendous. And provide increased funding for Maine higher education. Increase funding to the University of Maine, Maine Community College Systems, and the Maine Maritime Academy. So those are just some of the things that we're trying to work on with education that the press has a tendency to ignore and not really concentrate on. So anyway, besides that, like I said, we're going to be seeing a ton of bills and an awful lot of things happening in the next couple of weeks that are going to turn some heads. The best thing to do is to pay attention. You can go on the internet. You go on maine.gov and go into legislation, click it on, and you can actually watch the House in practice. You can watch the House in session. You can watch the Senate in session. You can listen to any committee meetings. Most of the committees are winding down. I know my committee, which was insurance and financial services, we finished up, probably a week and a half ago. We do have a couple of good bills in there. We've got one bill that looks like it is going to come out clean. They came out with a unanimous ought-to-pass vote that I think will tremendously help lower our insurance costs, and it's called a shopping bill. What it does is it allows you to take your, and I know everybody's got these big, enormous deductibles of $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $12,000 deductibles. But what it allows you to do is to take, and if you're going to have a $2,000 procedure done at the local hospital, you have a choice of going and shopping around. And if you find that same procedure 50 miles down the road in Massachusetts, in New Hampshire, if you find that procedure for $800, you can say to your insurer, even if it's out of network, you can say to your insurance company, I want that procedure, not the $2,000 one. And they have to go with it. They use that money towards your deductibles or whatever, or if you've got your deductibles in, they pay for it. So that bill should go through, and hopefully it will. It has been a pleasure this morning. Unfortunately, we missed Senator Searway, and I wish that he'll be on our next show, I'm quite sure, and give you a little bit more insight of what's happening in the Senate, because we're not. We talked to the Senate. We had a meeting actually with the Senate President yesterday, but there's more inside that we never see. So anyway, well, thank you, and have a great 2 weeks, and we'll see you back as things happen and get more exciting. Good day.